What's up, Fantasy Nation? Fantasy Umpire Danny Kitchen here. If you've made it with me this far, that means that you're probably in the fantasy finals this week. Congratulations on that. I'm in 3 leagues myself, and I made the finals in one of them, so the other 2 were an absolute disaster. But when that happens, you just kind of focus on the one league that does make it all the way, and I'm sure those of you that are still with me here on the show are feeling the same way. So congrats. Let's bring home that W. Let's win this money. And I'm going to go over the Week 17 slate with you right now. But before I do, real quickly, the NFL has a new COVID protocol, I guess, for the players that are unvaccinated and the ones that are fully vaccinated. So, we're seeing the direct impact of the NFL's new protocols. In this week alone, 55 players were activated off the COVID list today. So, many of them were placed on the list earlier this week, and you have to imagine if this was a week ago, they probably wouldn't be playing. But in this case, with the new rules in place, players that are asymptomatic can test back in as long as their tests are negative and then play on Sunday, even though they tested positive earlier in the week. So, far fewer COVID cases this week, at least ones that are relevant to game statuses. Those that did test positive earlier in the week are now testing negative and testing out of the protocol. So, faster returns are now in play for the fully vaccinated and asymptomatic players. And I think that's a good thing for football, for fantasy. But, I'm not really sure about the COVID side of things. I'll stay away from that. But let's jump right into it. We have quite a few games. No Thursday night games this week. No Saturday games. Hopefully no Monday or no Tuesday games. Of course, that would mean that a game is moved last second due to a COVID outbreak. So I think we're in the clear here. We'll start with the 1 p.m. Eastern time slate, go on to the 4 o'clock, couple of 4:30 games, and then, of course, Sunday night, Packers and Vikings, and then Monday Night Football as well. The first game I'm going to touch on here is Atlanta traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Falcons are coming off that big win over the Lions. They're 7-8. They are, believe it or not, still in the hunt. They are not mathematically eliminated yet, but they will be on Sunday because I think the Bills smoke them. Buffalo's coming in off that big win over the Pats. They are 9-6. They're going to be my pick to win that division now. Basically control their own destiny. So they should be able to pull that off. Atlanta, I think, covers the 13.5 point spread. Give me the Bills money line at minus 1,200. Again, for those of you that aren't familiar with gambling, that's a $1,200 bet to win $100. So I wouldn't recommend that. That's just not worth the risk there. But again, give me the Bills money line. I think the Falcons do cover. 13.5 is too much, even at home in Buffalo. That Buffalo defense hasn't scared anyone recently. So, I think Matt Ryan has a decent game. I think we'll see some Kyle Pitts. We'll see some Russell Gage. And I think Cordell Patterson gets his as well on the ground. So one thing to note here, this is one of the few games affected by weather this week. We're expecting cold and foggy weather in Buffalo, 10-mile-per-hour winds, in the low 20s. Shouldn't affect too much, but we've seen it before. Matt Ryan doesn't like the cold weather. He plays in Atlanta, plays in a dome for half the season, more than half really, because he plays against the Saints twice too. But this is shaping up to be a blowout. I find it hard to believe with Atlanta still having something on the line, and some offensive weapons there. Obviously, their defense is their weakness. So I think it's a shootout, sneaky shootout. I love Josh Allen. To me, he's a clear top 3 quarterback this week. I could see him finishing as the QB1 very easily. He might even be my QB1 if I had to make weekly rankings this week. Like I said, Matt Ryan's going to have to throw to keep up. I don't think they're going to, but maybe they keep it close or make a late comeback there and keep it within the 13.5 points. But to me, that's too much against a veteran quarterback. I don't see the Falcons getting completely blown out, but I think they lose by probably 10 or 11 points. Devin Singletary, he's a strong RB2 for me this week. 3 straight top 15 finishes for him at the running back position. That's pretty consistent, and they're finding something there. They were kind of experimenting with Matt Breida for a minute. They were giving Zach Moss a couple carries, and now they're just kind of handing the reins off to Devin Singletary again. Cordell Patterson, I touched on him. He's a mediocre RB2 this week. Nothing flashy. His numbers have come way down since the start of the season when he single-handedly kept fantasy managers in the hunt. Stephon Diggs is going to be covered by A.J. Terrell, standout rookie cornerback there. Probably shadow coverage, we'll see, but that's not an easy task for Diggs. I think he's going to have a fine game, but I think we need to temper expectations a little bit there. Cole Beasley's coming back. I think we see a little bit more of Gabriel Davis. He was out with COVID last week, so maybe he comes back and finds that magic with Josh Allen again. But to me, this is not a set and forget it week for Diggs. You probably have to play him if you have him, but I would temper expectations. I think he could probably finish around 5 catches, 60 yards, and maybe he finds pay dirt to save the week, but tough to bank on that. Like I said, Cole Beasley coming back, that pushes Isaiah McKenzie back out of the mix, which is unfortunate because he looked amazing. He was so clutch. It was, clutch catch after clutch catch last week, and he finished as PFF's number 4 highest graded wide receiver. He was only behind T. Higgins, A.J. Brown, and Deebo Samuel last week. So Isaiah McKenzie grading in at 89.4 on PFF scale. That's pretty spectacular, And it looks like Emmanuel Sanders has been dealing with a knee issue all week. He may not even play. I think he will suit up, but he may not even play. And if he doesn't, this further cements Gabriel Davis as a wide receiver too for me. And I actually prefer Gabriel Davis to Stephon Diggs. I think he's going to be the number 1 target for Josh Allen this week. For those of you that watched my show last week, I mentioned Isaiah McKenzie as a sleeper, and I said that, he has a track record with Josh Allen. When he fills in for these guys, he explodes. He's one of those guys, all he needs is the target share, and he will produce, and he did that. So this week for me, it's going to be back to the Gabriel Davis show. Here are his PPR finishes among wide receivers when he runs a route on at least 35% of the snaps this season. This is for Gabriel Davis. Wide receiver 28 at 37%, wide receiver 26 at 37%, wide receiver 27 at 80%, and then wide receiver 4 at 90%. I think he's going to see closer to 90% of the snaps. So to me, fire him up. Like I said, he's a wide receiver too with clearly top 10 upside. So strong play for me. Love Kyle Pitts. He needs just 128 receiving yards to break Mike Ditka's rookie touchdown receiving record. Sorry, not touchdown, rookie tight end receiving record that was set at 1,076 yards. So again, just needs 128 yards. He had 108, I think, last week. So definitely doable. I don't think he gets it this week, but he'll probably get it the week after. But it's important to note Mike Ditka did that in 14 games. So much different time too. The tight end position has kind of evolved over the years, and it's just different. Moving on, Kansas City Chiefs coming off that win over Pittsburgh. They are at 11-4, clearly going to win that division. I think they maybe even just clinched. They are traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Cincy's coming off that win over Baltimore, and they are at 9-6. So, Cincy's feeling good. Chiefs are feeling good. We've seen it all season with Cincinnati. They win a big game. Joe Burrow plays out of his mind, and then they come crashing back down to earth. So we want to trust them, but then we can't. And I think that's exactly what we see this week. I think we want to trust them. I think they cover the 5.5 points, but I think the Chiefs win this game. So give me the Chiefs money line minus 230. Give me Bengals on the spread plus 5.5. It's just too much. It's going to be a close game, going to be a shootout. I don't think they're going to get blown out at home. So give me that, and then give me the over at 50.5 points. Like I said, this is going to be one of the higher scoring games of the week. Don't expect Burrow to put up 500 passing yards and 4 touchdowns like he did last week against the depleted Baltimore secondary, but I still think he has a nice game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is out for the Chiefs, collarbone injury. If you didn't see that one, he was off to a strong start last week against Pittsburgh, had that early touchdown, and then he was out of the game with the collarbone injury. They're probably going to hold him out until the playoffs at this point. Just unnecessary to rush him back, especially with Darrell Williams and Derek Gore. They're fine filling in for him. And that brings me to Darrell Williams. Love him this week. Cincinnati's run defense is solid, middle of the pack, but again, they use Darrell Williams in so many different ways. He's going to be catching passes. He's going to get 20 to 25 carries in this game. So love him. He's a borderline RB1, honestly. He's an easy set it and forget it RB2, but if you have to squeeze him into the RB1 category, I'm fine with that. Love all the Cincinnati pass catchers this week. Prefer Jamar Chase to T. Higgins, but apples and oranges here. You fire them both up as borderline wide receiver ones right now. T. Higgins putting up almost 200 receiving yards last week again. There's an asterisk there because they played Baltimore, who's no doubt about it the worst secondary in the league right now, not because of quality of play, but because they're just down to their 8th and 9th string cornerbacks. T. Higgins, one thing to note, he was PFF's highest graded wide receiver in week 16 at 91.0, ahead of A.J. Brown at number 2 at 90.7, and Deebo Samuel at 90.1. So just an incredible week for all the pass catchers last week on Cincinnati, but especially T. Higgins. Kelsey and Tyreek both off the COVID list. Of course, Tyreek played last week. I warned you guys, do not start him. He was removed from the COVID list one day before that game, and I warned you, he was one of those players that was experiencing cramping and fatigue even before COVID. Now we're starting to see, I think we'll see more stats come out about players the week after they come off the COVID list and their production slipping a little bit. I'm not positive about it, but just to me, from what I've seen, it feels like these guys take a week or two to kind of get back into the groove of things. For Tyreek, it'll be closer to a week than 2 weeks. I think he'll be fine this week. But last week, I warned you guys, I said he's a player I would stay away from just because you hate to see those guys go up to the very last minute. And he was. I think it was the day before the game that they brought him off the COVID list. And we saw it. I think he only played 42% of the snaps, if I'm not wrong here. Yeah, you saw 2 targets, season low 42% snap rate. And James Palmer reported that Tyreek was quote unquote exhausted out there. He was just trying to do what he could to contribute. It's tough to foreshadow, tough to see that coming, but I was kind of expecting a lesser role. They didn't really need him last week. And so, just, beware with that with some of these guys coming off COVID. Travis Kelce should be fine, but, he might be a little tired, but he's had that full week and a half since testing negative. So he's good now. Moving on to the Giants, coming off that loss to the Eagles, absolute spanking. As a Giants fan, whatever, just give me to the draft. They're kind of in a weird position though, because they have the Bears pick this upcoming draft. So they've got their own pick, which looks like it's going to be a top 5 pick because they're going to finish, with 4 or 5 wins most likely. And then they've got the Bears pick, and they're playing the Bears going to Chicago this week. So it's really a lose-lose. They win the game, their draft pick goes a little higher. So it goes from 4 or 5 to 6 or 7. They lose the game, and that means the Bears win, and the Bears pick now goes higher from 5 or 6 to 6 or 7. So, the Bears are coming in at 5-10 off that win over the Seahawks. Just an ugly win. Not much to talk about there, but yeah, this is just a weird game for Giants fans. Bears want to win this game. They probably want to win it more than the Giants, but again, just weird. It's a lose-lose, and that's kind of the way it feels every week for the Giants. Whatever. Even if we win a game, we're putting ourselves in a worse position to draft, and it's not like we're doing anything with our draft picks anyway, so who cares? Anyway, having said that, my little Giants rant. Give me the Bears to win this game. I'll take their money line minus 270. Give me the Giants at plus 5.5. I think they keep this close. It'll be an ugly game. The over-under set at 37.5. Just ridiculous. I'm going to take the over. That's just so low. I think the Bears are going to put up points. Andy Dalton starting. I think they score about 20 points, and then, maybe the Giants can score 18 and cover that spread for me. But that's a spread an over-under that I'm staying away from. Probably a spread I'm staying away from too. But like I said, I think the Giants keep it close. Weather could be a factor in this one. Cold, mostly cloudy, 16-mile-per-hour winds, so probably heaviest winds in all the games that we're seeing in terms of weather. Low 20s, again, cold game. And, Saquon's returning to the same place where he tore his ACL last year. So kind of eerie vibes. Maybe he plays out of his mind, but I doubt it. We haven't seen anything like that. Anything to signal that this year with Saquon. Should be a big game for both of the Chicago running backs. We're going to see mostly David Montgomery in this one, but we'll see some Khalil Herbert as well. Darnell Mooney is a fine play. Andy Dalton's starting, so I wouldn't get too excited about any of the pass catchers on Chicago, but Mooney's probably the one guy I would trust right now. Cole Kmet, Dalton tends to lean on his tight ends, so maybe he goes 6 for 60, something like that. But again, tough to get too excited for these guys. Akeem Hicks is coming back for Chicago, so look out whoever's playing quarterback for the Giants. They're talking about trotting out a tandem attack of Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm. Giants fans want to see neither of these guys, and the Giants coaching staff says, well, let's see both of them. So it's just painful to watch. Kadarius Toney's going to be out. Darius Slayton out with COVID. It's getting ugly. Tampa Bay coming off that win over the Panthers. They're sitting there at 11-4, trying to get that home field advantage for the playoffs, get that first round bye. They're taking on the New York Jets in New York. Jets coming off that win over the Jags at 4-11. Give me Tampa money line at -700. Jets are going to cover this spread at 13.5 points. I will take the over at 45.5. Tampa, this is one of those games where the Jets might surprise us. Tampa doesn't have a lot to play for. Neither teams really do, but the Jets are still trying to prove themselves. They had a little mini COVID outbreak last week, but I think this is a sneaky shootout. I don't think Tampa's defense does too much to the Jets this week. I think maybe there's a couple turnovers here and there, but if you look at what the Jets do, they're going to use Michael Carter in the passing game, a lot of dump offs, a lot of slot work. Jamison Crowder, big week for him. But yeah, fire up all of the Tampa pass catchers that are still healthy or getting healthy. Antonio Brown, love him if he plays. He tweaked his ankle at practice this week. He had a 50% target share last week. That's just unheard of. He needs 11 catches, 281 yards, and 2 touchdowns for a $333,000 bonus on each of those categories. So again, 11 catches, $333,000. 281 yards, $333,000. 2 touchdowns, $333,000. That's $1 million if he hits those 3 benchmarks. So look, and these guys know that. Brady knows that. They're buddies. Look for Brady to make that happen for AB, and probably as soon as this week, who knows? Brown could easily catch 11 balls and 2 touchdowns in this game. He had 10 catches for 100 yards last week, and now he's playing the Jets. This is a plus matchup for all of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers weapons. Rondell Jones, I like him this week. They're going to play Keyshawn Vaughn. Vaughn looked better to me. He passed the eye test last week. He's playable as a flex option. But yeah, you got to fire up Ronald Jones. Just this matchup's too good on paper, taking on the Jets. Even on the road, Tampa's going to win this game. Hopefully it doesn't get out of hand, and they still have to throw and keep the offense on the field. But love Gronk too. Big week coming for Gronk. He was supposed to smash last week. He didn't. Bounce back week coming for Gronk. Snap share was there. The targets were not, but it's coming. It's coming this week. Michael Carter for the Jets last week. He had a 74% snap share. That was his season high. 58% route rate, which is fantastic. 16 of the 30 running back carries went to him, and he had 3 targets as well for a 14% target share. So you love to see that out of your running backs. You want to see pass catchers. So I like where this train is heading, and I think Michael Carter has a top 15 running back day, potentially top 10. If Tampa gets out to an early lead, look for the Jets to check down to Carter quite a bit. And finishes for Carter when he plays 70% or more of the snaps, RB7, RB1, RB17. So, it's there. If he's playing a lot, he's going to finish in the top 15, and he clearly has RB1 upside, top 5 running back upside. Vegas Raiders coming off that win over the Broncos at 8-7, traveling to Indianapolis, coming off that big win over the Cards at 9-6. Both teams still in the hunt here, both trying to get in. I think this is going to be a tight game. That's why give me the Colts to win. Give me them in the money line. But I think the Raiders cover 6.5 points on the road. I think this is going to be a really close game. I'm going to take the under at 44.5. Just not a lot of offense here. I think Jonathan Taylor gets it going. He's getting his O-line back a little bit. A couple of those guys were missing from the COVID list and injuries. So he should have almost the full offensive line back. Big JT game coming. Big game coming for Michael Pittman as well. Carson Wentz is coming off the COVID list, so it looks like he's in a play. Jonathan Taylor, by the way, this is a crazy stat. Jonathan Taylor, hit within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage on 24 of his 27 rushing attempts last week versus the Cardinals. That we kind of, I alluded to it on my show last week. He needs that O-line. He's a great running back, but he needs that O-line to really produce. He had a decent game, nothing great. I think it was actually one of his lowest scoring fantasy games of the year, but he needs that O-line healthy. That's insane. 24 of his 27 rushing attempts, he was hit within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. That's just crazy. So they weren't getting any push for him. It was all, anything that he got was all on his own. Expect a much better game for him this week. So fire him up. Top 5 running back. It'll be the Josh Jacobs show for the Raiders just because there's not much else there in Las Vegas. We can expect solid games from Foster Moreau, Hunter Renfrow, maybe Zay Jones. Vegas activated Casey Hayward, Corey Littleton linebacker, Denzel Perryman linebacker, and defensive tackle Darius Philon from the COVID list. So, that's great. They're getting some healthy guys back. Casey Hayward, he's probably going to be on their slot guy. Maybe he plays Pittman a little bit, but yeah. I mean, the Vegas secondary has been playing pretty well recently, but they still don't scare me. And Indianapolis is not going to throw the ball. They're going to run it 30, 40 times down your throat. Prove to them that you can stop it, and then maybe they take a couple shots with Pittman deep, but don't expect too much out of Wentz. Again, first game back after COVID. He was out all week, so the fatigue might be a factor there. All right, I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit. We got the Dolphins coming off that win over the Saints at 8-7, going to Tennessee, fresh off that win over the Niners. That was fantastic. They're coming in at 10-5. Two teams still in the hunt, playing for a couple final playoff positions. Tennessee is still fighting for that division. Miami trying to get a wild card spot. I actually think there's a way for Miami to win the AFC East. They need a lot to happen. They would need the Bills and the Pats to lose probably both of their last 2 games, or at least one of them, and they would need to win both of theirs. So not likely, but they can still win that division, but more likely they could win a wild card spot. So we'll see if they get that. Give me the Titans money line at -180. Give me the Dolphins at +3.5 on the road. I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be low scoring. 40.5 is the over-under. I'm going to take the over, but just barely. Just looking at this, I like the wide receivers. I like A.J. Brown. Love Jalen Waddle this week. Ryan Tannehill's nothing more than a QB2. Same thing with Tua. A.J. Brown, he's going to see a lot of Xavier Howard, one of the best cornerbacks in the game. I still think you've got to fire him up as a top 10 wide receiver, but maybe temper your expectations a little bit in this one. Julio Jones is out. So again, A.J. Brown, not really much competition for targets there. He probably sees 10 to 15 targets. He probably catches 7 to 8 of them. So, I think he'll be a strong wide receiver 1. But again, just a tough matchup. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I'm not confident with that over, by the way. I would stay away from that. 40.5 points. I'm actually leaning closer to the under on that. I'll stick with my gut and go with over, but stay away from that. Dolphins should cover, though. 3.5 points. This is going to come down to a last-second field goal for the win, and I just trust Tennessee at home. Let's see, what else? Like I said, I love Jalen Waddle, top 10 upside from him. This offense should really go through him this week. He's going to be in the slot a lot. I'm fading Mike Gesicki. Look what Tennessee and Pro Bowl safety Kevin Byard did to George Kittle last week. Totally shut him down. It's partially because George Kittle was a little dinged up, and they also didn't really need him. They were running the ball well and using their other weapons, but Jimmy G was horrendous. But yeah, I'm fading Mike Gesicki. He's a big part of their offense, but that's a tough matchup. Tennessee is pretty stingy against the tight ends, and you can't trust any Miami running back this week. Stay away from them. Moving on, Philadelphia, fresh off that win over the Giants, coming in at 8-7. They're playing great football, especially that defense. Jalen Hurts is playing well, and they're traveling to Washington. Quite the opposite, playing terrible. They are waving the white flag, coming off that loss to Dallas. Absolute beatdown in Dallas. They are at 6-9. Their season's all but over. Maybe, I don't even know if they're mathematically eliminated yet, but they're done. Give me the Eagles to win this game outright. Eagles are going to cover the 3.5 points, even on the road. Give me the under at 44.5. This is not going to be a high-scoring game. Hurts should have a nice game. Strong QB1 for me. That secondary in Washington is terrible. They're banged up. Like I said, they're waving the white flag. They're giving up. The they're going to play hard for Riverboat Ron, but I still don't like them to win this game or cover. You know, they're going to be playing both Taylor Heineke and Kyle Allen this week. I hate it when teams start two quarterbacks. It's just a disaster. It makes it really tough for the offense to flow and get in any sort of rhythm. So I don't like that. Washington D lineman kind of got into it in the sidelines last week. That was crazy. De'Aaron Payne. I'm drawing a blank of the other guy, but you know, it doesn't look good. And now their O-line is going to be without their offensive line coach this week. John Matsko is out with COVID. So they're bringing in their assistant O-line coach, Travell Wharton, to replace Matsko. It's just a disaster. You know, Antonio Gibson's out with COVID, so expect rookie running back Jarrett Patterson to get the start here and see the bulk of the work. I think Wendell Smallwood should probably see some passing down work as well. So don't expect Jarrett Patterson to get more than maybe 25 touches. Still a solid RB2, but you know, hey, this is a team that's gonna have to throw to keep up with Dallas. Dallas is gonna put up 25 points on their own, I think. So look out. This could be a blowout here. I'm sorry, Dallas. I said Dallas. I meant Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia is going to put up a lot of points here, and I think they score probably 20 to 25, and it could be a blowout. You know, I took the Eagles at -3.5, but again, like I said, I'm taking the under at 44.5 points. You know, on the Philadelphia side of things, I love Devonta Smith this week. Love Dallas Goedert. You know, Miles Sanders is out. I think they're gonna have to throw. I prefer Boston Scott to Jordan Howard, but still prefer the passing game to the running game. I know Philadelphia's run first. They probably don't need to pass too much to beat Washington, but if you're going to beat Washington, it's through the air. Dallas proved that last week. On the Eagles' defensive side of things, they activated Derek Barnett from the COVID list, so that's a big boost for them on defense, and that's a defense that has already been playing at a very high level, so I like them in fantasy as well. Give me the Philadelphia defense and special teams as a top 10 play. All right. Last two 1 o'clock games, then we'll jump ahead to the 4 o'clocks. We got the Jags coming off that loss to the Jets, coming in at 2-13. Wow. At the Patriots, coming off that loss to Buffalo at 9-6. Give me the Patriots to win the game. I like them in the money line, but I do think the Jags cover at 14.5 points. When I see these two teams play, I think back to, I think it was 2017, the AFC Championship game or divisional game. When the Jags should have won. They were one play away from beating Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and of course they did not. And I don't know. I have a weird feeling about this game. I think the Jags cover. I think they actually keep it closer than people think. Give me the under at 42.5. If this is a close game, it's going to be a defensive battle. You know, the Jags offense is anemic. They're not going to do much there. It's going to have to be a defensive battle, and you know, I think they can contain the Patriots offense. So love Damian Harris. He's coming off that monster performance, 3 touchdowns last week against Buffalo. Keep in mind, Ramondre Stevenson is back this week from the COVID list, so he could eat into that work a little bit, but this is Damian Harris's backfield, clearly. So if you're a Harris owner, you got to fire him up. Don't worry about Stevenson. But just something to note, he's not going to score 3 touchdowns this week. Love Hunter Henry and Jacoby Myers, both strong plays. Shout out to Patriots safety Adrian Phillips. He just signed a nice 3-year extension with the Pats worth up to $14.25 million. Well deserved there. Jaguars have the lowest implied team total of the week at 12.75 points. You know, they're going to hit that. They're not going to. Patriots defense is good, but the Jags are going to keep this a little close. You know, 14.5 points is way too much. They keep it within 10, in my opinion. Laviska Shenault coming back from the COVID list. You can't start him, but, you know, hey, he's a what the heck flex for me. All right, last 1 o'clock game. LA Rams coming off that win over the Vikings, 11-4, going to Baltimore off that beatdown against the Bengals. They're coming in at 8-7, still alive, still have a shot to win that division. I like the Rams here. I like the Rams to win. I like them to cover the 3.5 points on the road. Give me the over, 46.5 points. This is going to be a shootout. You know, give me all of the pass catchers in LA. Matthew Stafford had a bad game last week, couple of picks. He just didn't look right against the Vikings. Something was off, but I have a feeling Baltimore secondary is horrendous. They're dinged up, even more so than last week. They have a couple more injuries. They're getting one guy back in that secondary this week, but they look terrible, and Cincinnati torched them. If Joe Burrow did that to that defense, imagine what Matthew Stafford, Odell Beckham, Cooper Kupp, and Van Jefferson are going to do. So love Van Jefferson, prefer him to Odell Beckham this week, but fire them all up. Cooper Kupp's he's got wide receiver 1 potential this week, just like he does any week, but love him. He needs 18 catches, 231 yards to break the single season receiving records there. So he's closing on 2,000. They're going to do everything they can to get him all these records. This is a historic season for him. Love Cooper Kupp. Give me all the overs on his player prop bets. I think Van Jefferson scores a touchdown. I think Odell scores a touchdown. I think Stafford throws 3, maybe 4 touchdowns this week. I love Sony Michel. Big week coming for him. You love the RB1 in any sneaky shootout, especially on the team that should win the game. And I think the Rams are going to win this game. 3.5 is too low for the spread. I would take the Rams all the way up to 5, maybe 5.5 points. Lamar Jackson's out. Tyler Huntley is going to be starting. That's a decent play. I still think, temper expectations there. Teams are, they have film on Tyler now, so they're going to be keeping a closer eye on some of his tendencies. And we saw him throw across the field a couple times. Things that he may have gotten away with the first time around. He will not get away with that. Not against Jalen Ramsey, not against Aaron Donald and Von Miller. So moving on, 4:30 games. Houston Texans at San Francisco. Texans coming off that win over the Chargers at 4-11, shocking the world. San Francisco coming off that loss to Tennessee on Thursday Night Football. They're coming in at 8-7, still in the hunt. I like this team. They just kind of need a jolt. I think that jolt can be Trey Lance. He's going to be starting this week. Jimmy Garoppolo's out with that thumb injury. I love Trey Lance. He was my number 1 quarterback in this year's draft. I knew San Francisco was going to jump up and take him. There was the rumor that they were going to use that 3rd pick on Mac Jones. I knew that was baloney. Trey Lance has all the raw traits. He's super talented. He throws a great deep ball. He throws hard. He throws lasers. He's accurate. He's mobile. He's good on the ground. He's kind of like a Kaepernick type. Give me the Niners to win. Give me the Niners to cover the 12.5 point spread, even against this Texans team that just knocked off a pretty good Chargers team at home. Give me the over at 43.5 points. I think the only player that takes a hit with Trey Lance starting is Debo. Those tricky carries that he gets, behind line scrimmage stuff, I think a lot of that goes to Trey Lance instead of him. We're going to see some more RPOs. Trey Lance is going to get some goal line work. To me, he's a top 5 quarterback play with upside. He is going to light the world on fire this week. So fire him up if you have him. If he's somehow still on the waiver wire, add him before tomorrow and fire him up. The only quarterbacks I'd start ahead of him are Stafford, Josh Allen, maybe Patrick Mahomes, maybe Jalen Hurts. I would start Dak over him, but yeah, he's a potential top 5 quarterback with top 3 upside. So I love him this week. Brandon Ayuk, he gets an upgrade with Trey Lance. Those guys have been working on the side of the field quite a bit in pregame warmups. Trey Lance has been working on his deep ball and using Ayuk as that receiver. That usually correlates to on-field success, or translates to on-field success. So we'll see if that happens. Kittle's trending up. I think he's gonna have a bounce-back game. Texans don't really scare you, especially not on the ground. They should be able to run all over them. Look what Justin Jackson did to them last week. Elijah Mitchell, if he's playing, he's a full go RB1 for me. If he's not, Jeff Wilson Jr. RB1. Expect Houston to have to throw early and often to keep up with them. So, I think there's a lot of turnovers in this one. It's going to be a different game script. Houston was running the ball on the Chargers because they had the lead, and they got out to that early lead, and their offense was clicking. And when you do that, you can play action. Davis Mills is fantastic off play action. So it's going to be a different story here. You can't run against the San Francisco defense, so you're going to have to throw, and Davis Mills is going to be under pressure here. So San Francisco is going to win. They're going to cover 12.5 points. That's a big line, but I like it. Detroit Lions coming off that loss to Atlanta. They should have won that game. Their record is 2-12-1. They are traveling to Seattle to take on the Seahawks, who are coming off that loss to the Bears. They should have won that game too. Seattle is at 5-10. So Detroit's trying to get that number 1 overall draft pick. Seattle's trying to get into the top 5 draft picks. Um, give me the Seahawks money line. I think they're going to win this game. This is the Russ Wilson final home game narrative. You love that. I think he has a big game. I think Seattle plays hard for him. So Seahawks are going to win this game. I think the Lions cover, though. I love the way this team is playing. They play so hard for Dan Campbell. Give me the Lions at +6.5, even on the road in Seattle. I think this game goes over at 42.5 points. It's a little bit too low for me. Not a lot of defense here. Both teams lacking the defense. I think Detroit has success. No Jared Goff in this one. Instead, we're going to see Tim Boyle for a second week in a row. Last week, he put up 187 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, whatever. More of the same here. Maybe throws for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he's not a fantasy quarterback for me. DeAndre Swift's coming back this week. Dan Campbell said expect the full workload. So love DeAndre Swift. He's a top 10 running back. You got to trust the head coach. I don't know why they're cutting him loose, but they are. They've got nothing to play for, but in their mind, they have everything to play for. That's why I love this team. They play hard every single week. You got to love Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's just playing out of his mind. He's playing more outside now since, over the last 5 games, he's played, it looks like, he started this season in the slot more. So he played from the slot 85% of the time until week 12. And since then, since week 12, 63% of his routes have come from the slot. And, clearly his ability to play outside and in the slot is correlating to more targets, higher target share, more catches. Week 12, his target share was at 16%, week 13, 32%, week 14, 31%, week 15, 40%, last week, 31%. So clearly he is trending in the right direction. That has a lot to do with him playing out wide more than in the slot, or at least combining the two. Rashad Penny, love him this week. He now has 19.5 or more PPR points in 2 of his last 3 games. He's also now the clear workhorse back for them. He has over, 44 carries over his last 3 games. So he's going to face the Detroit Lions, probably one of the worst rush defenses in the league right now. They're giving up 27.5 PPR points per game to running backs. Fire up Rashad Penny as a top 15 running back, but this is a blow up spot for the passing game. I love Russ Wilson this week. I love Tyler Lockett coming off COVID. Buyer beware there. He might be a little fatigued. He said he lost something like 8 or 9 pounds, so he had a rough bout with COVID. So love DK Metcalf more so than Tyler Lockett here. If you do play Tyler Lockett, I like him, but temper expectations a little bit coming off COVID. All right, and then we have the Arizona Cardinals going to Dallas. This is going to be probably the game of the week. Arizona's coming off a tough loss to the Colts. They are 10-5 now. Dallas coming off that big win over the Washington football team at 11-4. I like Dallas in this one. They're going to win this game, but I think the Cardinals cover 5.5 points. Just 2 teams trending in opposite directions. The Cowboys look great. Their defense is playing great. Offense is clicking. Zeke looks healthy or healthier than he did a few weeks ago. Pollard getting healthy. And the Cardinals they look bad. These defenses are starting to figure them out. They're showing how vulnerable they are without D-Hop, and they really don't have that go-to receiver anymore. Give me the over, though. A lot of offense here, 51.5 points. I'm going to go over. I love all the Dallas pass catchers. There isn't a single one I would bench. Fire up Amari Cooper. Fire up CeeDee Lamb. Fire up Gallup. Even the tight ends. Give me Schultz this week. Love him. It can go anywhere. Dak likes to spread the wealth, so it's tough to kind of pinpoint one guy. Maybe CeeDee Lamb. He scores a touchdown since he didn't catch one last week. He was one of the few guys that didn't score a touchdown on that offense. On the Arizona side of things, I love Chase Edmonds. If Connor sits this week, Edmonds is a top 10 play. Week 16 usage for him. 92% snap share, 73% route rate, 16 carries, 9 targets, 3rd in expected PPR points for Edmonds. So, that's elite usage. If Connor sits, Edmonds is a top 10 play. If Connor plays, they're both RB2s with RB1 upside. you have to play James Conner if he's out there, but tough to trust him really. They're also, Cards are going to be without outside linebacker Marcus Golden this week. He's going to be on COVID, so slight upgrade there for Zeke, and the tight ends too. That's an upgrade for Dalton Schultz. Still waiting for Rondale Moore to make a splash. He made one earlier in the season, and he's been kind of quiet since then. So the Cardinals need someone to step up. To me, Rondale Moore is the clear favorite. He's the splashy receiver. They just don't give him any targets more than 5 to 10 yards downfield. So they gotta cut him loose a little bit. All right, next game here. Denver Broncos heading to the LA Chargers. Broncos coming off that loss to the Raiders at 7-8. So they're still in the hunt. They're still fighting for a playoff spot. Chargers coming off that brutal loss to the Texans. They needed that one. They're 8-7. They're still firmly in the mix, but man, trending in the wrong direction, and COVID just hit that team at the wrong time. Give me the Chargers to win this game. I like them in the money line, but I think the Broncos cover. Again, they have something to play for here. 6.5 points is too much. The Chargers just haven't impressed recently. Not that the Broncos have either, but Broncos run first offense. Chargers, terrible run defense. So when you get teams like this, it's clash of the Titans, but not really. It's a clash of an offense that doesn't really know how to move the ball, but the one way they can move the ball is running. And the Chargers can't stop the run, so maybe this is the one way that offense gets going. And if they do, it could open up things for the passing game as well. So, but yeah, the Denver offense is absolutely pathetic. They need to cut ties with that entire coaching staff. Broncos totaled 40 offensive snaps last week. 40 total. That's mind-blowing. That's the fewest by any offense in a single game this season, and it's also 9th fewest in a single game since 2010. Their offense is just pathetic, and they've got weapons, and that's why it's so frustrating. If you're a Denver fan, you've got to be going nuts. Just get me to the offseason, get Aaron Rodgers to town, get Russell Wilson to town, and that offense will, get the coaching staff out of there too, and then that offense, you'll start to see that offense come full circle. But they've got the pieces. They just need a quarterback, the most important piece. Cornerback Bryce Callahan, he's among the long list of players that Denver will be without this week due to the COVID outbreak that they had. He would have been covering Keenan Allen, so now you can fire Keenan Allen up as a top 10 play. I don't know who the backup is, but Bryce Callahan has been one of the bright spots in that defense, and he covers the slot receiver. That's Keenan Allen this week. Look out. On the Denver side of things, I'm targeting the running backs and tight ends in this one. I already touched on the running backs. The Chargers cannot stop the run. Denver runs the ball well. They will look to the tight ends quite a bit. Give me some Noah Fant. Give me some Albert Okwuegbunam, I believe is how you pronounce it. They both should feast. So, the Chargers are allowing the most fantasy points to tight ends this year. Denver's going to be without Jerry Jeudy, no Tim Patrick. I expect the Broncos to use more 12 personnel this week. So, with Jerry Jeudy and Tim Patrick out, they probably have to, and they should. And that just means more tight ends, more Noah Fant, more Albert O. So when Noah Fant is in a route on more than 75% of his drought, on more than 75% of the dropbacks this season, he finished as tight end 6, tight end 9, tight end 28, tight end 1, tight end 17, and tight end 11. So his 3 best finishes have all come with Jeudy out. Tight end 6, tight end 9, and tight end 1. I think big game coming for Noah Fant this week. Javonte Williams too. This has got to be a big Javonte week. I'm a huge Javonte supporter. You guys know that. If he can't do it this week, I don't know when. Melvin Gordon's still dealing with hip injury, toe injury, foot injury, everything. So Javonte Williams is the healthier back, the better back. Hopefully they give him the touches this week. The offense is pathetic though. If they only have 40 offensive snaps, no one's going to perform. They're going to have more than 40 this week. I think this will be more of a shootout. We're going to see more offense. Chargers can't stop anyone right now. They just let Davis Mills and Rex Burkhead go bananas. So next game on the 4:30 slate, Carolina Panthers coming off the loss to the Tampa Bay Bucs at 5-10, traveling to New Orleans, taking on a New Orleans Saints team that was just beat by the Miami Dolphins at 7-8. I think the Saints are going to be angry, guys. They give me the Saints money line, give me the Saints against the spread here at 6.5 points at home. I'm going to go over 38.5 points. Again, the Saints are getting back some key players on offense. Taysom Hill's coming off the COVID list. Forget what you saw by Ian Book. We will never see him again in an NFL uniform, I think. At least not starting. This is going to be a big bounce back for the New Orleans offense. I love Alvin Kamara this week. You got to trust the man that gave us 6 touchdowns in the same exact spot at the same exact time last year at home. So love Taysom Hill. He's a top 15 quarterback for me this week. Carolina's giving Sam Darnold the start. Ownership's been coming down hard on Matt Rule this week. A lot of public criticism, which you never like to see. So maybe he's losing that locker room a little bit. He's definitely losing the trust of the ownership. So that's never something you want to see as a coach going into your final couple games of the season. It looks like the end is near for him. You can't play DJ Moore, guys. He's super talented, but you can't trust the way they're dialing up plays for him or who's throwing the ball. Who knows? But yeah, DJ Moore, he's 4th in the league in target share this year, 28%, but it means something where those targets are coming from. And when it's coming from Sam Darnold and Cam Newton, it's not good. With Eric McCoy now on the COVID list as well, the Saints are going to be without their starting left tackle, right tackle, and center this week. That's terrible. So slight downgrade for the running game there, but still, Taysom Hill is going to manufacture touches, especially by the goal line. So I like him, and Kamara is going to do his thing. They're going to get him out in the open. Obviously, they didn't use him the right way last week. They're going to make things right. They're going to get him going. This Panthers defense doesn't really scare you. They had a couple guys in the COVID list as well. They're just getting them back. They're going to be exhausted. Looks like Pro Bowl defensive end Brian Burns, linebacker Shaq Thompson. They both cleared the COVID protocols, and they're going to come back and play this week. But again, fatigue's a factor first week back, so something to monitor there. All right, Sunday Night Football. We got the Minnesota Vikings in a classic at the Green Bay Packers. Vikings coming off that loss to the LA Rams at 7-8. Packers coming off that big win over Cleveland at 12-3. The Packers they look like the team to beat. To me, Packers, Rams, Cowboys, they're probably going to start peaking at the right time here. We're going to see them go into the postseason on a high note, finish strong. Packers might have home field advantage. Give me the Pack to win this game. I think the Vikings cover the spread at 12.5 points, even without Kirk Cousins. That's a lot. Divisional game, these guys usually play each other pretty tight, even in Lambeau. I'm going to take the over at 42.5 points. This is the last regular season potentially the last regular season home game for both Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. Not likely. Looks like we're going to see them playing a playoff game or two at home. So not likely, but still, that narrative is there. Is this the last time we see Rodgers and Davante Adams playing at home in the regular season? Maybe. Rumor has it that they might be a package deal wherever they go in the offseason. So if you want one of them, you're going to have to take both. And if you're an owner, if you're a franchise, sure, I'll take the best wide receiver in the game and one of the best quarterbacks. Why not? To me, it's a easy fit in Denver. They've got 3 wide receivers there locked up now, so they probably don't need Davante. But anyway, Marquez Valdez-Scantling looks like he's going to play. Looks like Randall Cobb might be back next week, or at least for the postseason. Packers are hoping to get Zadarius Smith, Jair Alexander, and David Bakhtiari all back for the playoffs. Those are 3 important players playing 3 important positions in today's NFL. You got cornerback, offensive lineman, defensive end, pass rusher. It seems like they're trending in the right direction. This team's starting to get hot at the right time. To me, Green Bay, this is their year. They're destined to win it all. And we can watch Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams ride off into the sunset together. On the Minnesota side of things, Dalvin Cook is back. He will be active this week. Adam Thielen is out. They put him on the season-ending IR this week. Vikings will be without defensive tackle Michael Pierce. Upgrade Packers running backs with that news. Kirk Cousins, as I alluded to, he's going to be out with COVID. Vikings owe him $35 million next year. His salary is fully guaranteed. Just a terrible contract. And this shows kind of the struggle that GMs have in signing top quarterbacks or middle of the pack quarterbacks that are coming off a good statistical season. You know, what do? You've got 5 or 10 elite quarterbacks, probably 5 elite quarterbacks, and then you have the rest of the pack. And do you want to go for a title? Do you want to win it all, or do you want to have an 8-8 season? Do you want to have a 9-8 season now with 17 games, and just sneak into the playoffs every year? And you're never really a true contender. The Vikings are never a true contender as long as Kirk Cousins is under center, but he's going to win you games. They're 7-8. They're still in the playoff hunt. You know, he's good enough, but $35 million next year, good enough is not going to cut it. The line on this game moved 6 points, and the game total actually dropped 5 points in the Kirk Cousins news. So I don't think it's that big of a drop off between him and Sean Mannion. But Sean Mannion's going to get the start for them. His 2 previous NFL starts at quarterback. This is kind of interesting to me. His first came in a Week 17 loss to the Niners, 13-34 loss to the Niners back in 2017. While he was with the LA Rams. He went 20 of 34. That's a 58% completion percentage for 169 passing yards, 3 sacks, and a fumble lost. His second start came with the Vikings back in 2019, again in Week 17. Came in a loss to Chicago, 21-19. He went 12 of 21. Ouch. That's a 57% completion percentage. For 126 passing yards, 2 picks, and again, another fumble lost. He also threw a 66-yard pick 6 against the Arizona Cardinals back in 2016. That came in, wait for it, Week 17. So again, here, Week 17. He's the Week 17 man. Sean Mannion, he does not perform well. Couple of fumble lost, couple interceptions, 3 sacks, a pick 6. Fire up the Packers defense. You know, this guy's turnover prone. He does not put up numbers, does not put up yards. 169 yards, 126 yards. If you're a Justin Jefferson owner, how can you possibly trust him this week? Let's just say he throws for 169 yards, his career high in a start, in an NFL start. You think 100 of those go to Justin Jefferson? Probably not. Probably see some dump offs to Dalvin Cook, some dump offs to Conklin. You know, this is not good. Last game of the week for us here, we've got the Cleveland Browns on Monday Night Football, coming off that loss to the Packers. They are 7-8, going to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. They got beat to a pulp against the Chiefs last week. They're coming in at 7-7-1. I'm going to take the Browns money line here at -175. Give me the Steelers at +3.5. And I'll take the over at 40.5 points. This is another one of those games where the starting quarterback is potentially playing his final home game. Big Ben is done. He is fried, but maybe he has a little something to give us here. This Cleveland Browns secondary hasn't looked great recently. The Packers torched him. You know, obviously Big Ben is not Aaron Rodgers, but maybe they can exploit some weaknesses deep. You know, Steelers aren't going to go out without a fight here. They're going to play hard for Big Ben. A lot of these guys, you know, have been playing for him and with him for years. So they're going to go out swinging here. And so expect a big game from some of the pass catchers. You got to fire up Deontay Johnson. You got to fire up Pat Freiermuth, who is back from his concussion. I like his matchup a lot this week against the Browns. And then, you know, Cleveland's going to be without cornerback Troy Hill with a knee injury, safeties Ronnie Harrison Jr. with an ankle injury, John Johnson III with a hamstring. You know, expect a few deep shots for Pittsburgh. This is Big Ben's final home game. But yeah, I think it's just, you got to love the narrative, right? It's in Pittsburgh. This is probably going to be a high scoring game. We expect to see Najee Harris to get things going a little bit. Divisional game. Technically, the Steelers are still alive, by the way. Technically, they can still win that division. They would need a lot of things to fall in their favor, including Cincinnati losing, I think, both of their last 2 games. So anyway, that wraps it up. Trying to keep it under an hour here. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope everyone had a nice Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all that good stuff. So I'm going to try to do another one of these videos next week. I know that this is the fantasy finals for most leagues, but we'll try to focus more on the money line, the spread, the over-unders going forward, and kind of transition to more of a gambling video next week, and steer away from the fantasy side of things. And then in the off season, look for maybe a monthly video from me. I'm going to try to do a team by team report, and I'm going to wait for some off season acquisitions to come through, maybe some coaching firings, and coaching replacements and all that fun stuff. But anyway, we'll talk to you guys next week, week 18. Hopefully everyone has a happy new year, and we can kick things off with a fantasy title. Good luck, guys.